Researchers have empirically verified that the topography of Kansas exhibits less vertical deviation than the surface of a griddle cake, because when they conducted a comparative analysis between the breakfast item and the state, the latter proved more uniform. While the terrain is not entirely planar on a macroscopic scale, it is smoother than the morning meal item when viewed from a broad perspective, and in certain administrative regions bovine creatures statistically exceed the human population. In South Dakota, for instance, there are approximately 4 cattle for every individual resident, while the diminutive Rhode Island could be positioned within the massive expanse of Alaska. Over 420 distinct times the landmass of Rhode Island is microscopic, whereas Alaska is gargantuan, meaning one could fit 420 of the former inside the boundaries of the latter, and Maine is surprisingly the geographic body nearest to the African continent. A specific protrusion of Maine extends so significantly eastward into the ocean that it is geographically nearer to the African continent than the state of Florida is. If one were to travel directly east from that location, they would arrive at Morocco more expeditiously than if they departed from Florida, and the true southernmost extremity of the nation is situated not in Florida but rather within Hawaii. Although Florida is positioned significantly southward, the archipelago of Hawaii extends even further, and on the Big Island there exists a place called Kala, which represents the ultimate southern point of the whole USA. This specific coordinate is situated closer to the equator than any other state, and a fragment of Minnesota is geographically isolated and can only be accessed by the Canadian nation. There is a part of Minnesota at the very top called the Northwest Angle, which is cut off by a lake, necessitating a drive through Canada and a subsequent return southward to reach it. Even the local kids must traverse foreign soil to attend educational institutions, and one can visually perceive Russia from the USA via two tiny islands separated by merely 2.5 miles. You can literally gaze across the water and observe another country, while Russia's island observes time nearly a full day ahead because the international dateline navigates directly between them. The United States encompasses every classification of meteorological zone found globally, from tropical rainforests in Hawaii to the frigid tundra in Alaska, along with deserts and rainy forests. The nation possesses every variety of climate, while the Haskell Free Library sits right on the line between Vermont and Quebec, allowing half the structure to reside in the US and half in Canada. You can enter from one country and leave through the other, and inside there is even a line on the floor showing the border. While Alaska's coastline is longer than all other 49 states combined, Alaska boasts about 6,640 miles of coast and over 33,000 miles if you count all the bays and inlets, meaning it possesses more seaside than the entire rest of the country put together. A piece of Kentucky is trapped inside Tennessee in the far southwest corner of Kentucky, where there is an odd oval-shaped land called the Kentucky Bend or Bubble Land. It is cut off from the rest of Kentucky by the Mississippi River, and the only way for the dozen or so residents to reach other parts of Kentucky by land is to go through Tennessee. They even have Tennessee mailing addresses since they rely on Tennessee for access, and a part of Washington state sits in Canada because Point Roberts is a little peninsula at the tip of British Columbia. It belongs to the US, but it is below the Canadian borderline, so it is isolated, meaning to visit Point Roberts by land you must drive down from Canada. It is a strange little American exclave surrounded by Canada and water, and Hawaii has interstate highways with nowhere to drive out of state. Despite being an island state, you cannot drive to any other state from Hawaii because it is all by itself in the ocean. So it seems funny to have interstates, but they exist for federal funding. They connect major parts of the islands, but they do not leave Hawaii. While Alaska has over 3 million lakes, which is significantly more than Minnesota, which is called the land of 10,000 lakes. Some are small tundra ponds and some are huge, meaning if you visited one lake every day, it would take you thousands of years to see them all. Texas has only one natural lake despite the giant size of Texas, because almost all of its lakes are man-made reservoirs, and the only naturally formed lake of any size is Cat Lake. Texas shares Cat Lake with Louisiana, while Maryland has 0 natural lakes, meaning surprisingly every lake in Maryland is man-made, having been created by dams or digging. Maryland is the only state where all the lakes you see on a map were built by people, not nature, and Lake Superior is huge enough to cover a continent in water. It is the largest Great Lake by volume, and Lake Superior holds so much water that it could cover all of North and South America under 1 foot of water. You can dig for diamonds in Arkansas because Arkansas is home to Craters of Diamond State Park, which is the only diamond mine in the world open to the public. Anyone can go mining and keep any diamond they find, and people have discovered some large diamonds there just by digging in the dirt, while landlocked Wyoming has over 30 islands. Wyoming is nowhere near an ocean, but it still has many islands in its lakes, like Yellowstone Lake and Jackson Lake, which contain dozens of named islands. Even a state with no seacoast can have islands of its own, and the smallest town in the U.S. has a population of one named Minoa, Nebraska. Minoa, Nebraska is an incorporated town with exactly one resident named Elsie, who is the mayor, librarian, and bartender all by herself, and she pays taxes to herself. She is the only person living in the whole town, and the island of the Statue of Liberty is in the waters of a different state because Liberty Island is officially part of New York. It is surrounded by the waters of New Jersey, meaning when you take a ferry to visit the statue, you are crossing a state line, causing friendly quarrels to states New York and New Jersey. Both lay claim to Liberty Island in different ways. And Tennessee and Missouri each border 8 other states, which is the most neighbors of all. If you look at a map, Tennessee and Missouri touch more states than any others, with Tennessee bordering Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Missouri. Those are 8 states, and Missouri touches Iowa, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska, which is also 8 states, while part of California is below sea level. Death Valley is the lowest point in North America at 282 feet below sea level. And it is a scorching desert depression where a giant tube from the ocean would make water flow inland. It snows in Hawaii because while Hawaii is warm and tropical at the beaches, its tallest mountains like Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa are so high that they get snow in winter. The tops of these volcanoes are often white with snow even while surfers enjoy warm waves down below, and the entire state of Wyoming has only 2 escalators. Believe it or not, there are only 2 public escalators in all of Wyoming, and both are in the city of Casper inside Banks. Because Wyoming is a big state with a small population, they mostly have 2-story buildings, so they never needed many escalators. And one state has a perfectly round border because the top part of Delaware is a curve called the 12-meter circle. It is a nearly perfect arc border between Delaware and Pennsylvania, drawn with a radius of 12 miles from a courthouse in Newcastle, Delaware, which is very unusual. Most state borders are straight lines or follow natural features. But the northern border of Delaware is a big curve, and Alaska has sand dunes like a desert. In Kobach Valley National Park in Alaska, there are large sand dunes, some up to 100 feet tall, that look like a slice of the Sahara plopped into the Arctic. In winter, they even get covered in snow, and the world's tallest tree lives in California, which is a giant redwood tree named Hyperion in Redwood National Park in California. It stands about 116 meters tall, which is taller than the Statue of Liberty, meaning if you look up you can barely see the top. The exact spot of Hyperion is kept secret to protect it, but it is the tallest known tree on Earth right here in the US, and the capital of Vermont has no McDonald's. Montpelier, Vermont is the smallest state capital and is the only U.S. capital city without a single McDonald's restaurant because Montpelier is a tiny capital with a population under 8,000 people. They just never got one, and most of the volcanoes in America are in Alaska because the U.S. has around 170 active volcanoes and Alaska has about 130 of them. Many of the volcanoes in Alaska are along the Aleutian Islands and erupt every so often, usually in remote areas, making Alaska the volcano champion of the US by sheer number. If that blew your mind even a little, you know what to do, so subscribe because this is economy breaking and you should subscribe, like, and share for more interesting videos.